The difficulty is that there are as many definitions of the middle class in America as there are middle class Americans. But the definition that we use here is an income-based measure, and that's for households with incomes between about $40,000 a year and $140,000 a year. So that $100,000 income bracket is what we think of here as the middle class. The middle class as a whole is pretty evenly split between those who vote Democrat and those who vote Republican. But there are huge gaps by race within that group. So more than half of the middle class are white, and they voted for Donald Trump by a 20-point margin over Hillary Clinton in the last election, whilst minority members of the middle class voted for Hillary Clinton over Donald Trump by a 40-point margin. So there are huge race gaps in voting patterns within the middle class. Donald Trump made a number of promises to America's middle class, most particularly around changing free trade arrangements in ways that would help the middle class, and in terms of delivering tax cuts to the middle class. He's certainly made changes on the trade front, although the evidence that will help middle class families is weak, to say the least. If anything, they may be hurt by some of those changes. The signature piece of legislation has been the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which has cut taxes for middle-class Americans. But two big caveats are in order. First of all, the tax cut for middle-income households is very modest. For a family in the middle of the distribution, the tax cut this year is worth just less than $1,000. For families in the top 1% of the distribution, the tax cut is worth $50,000. Which is almost a middle-class income. And critically, the personal tax measures in the bill will expire in 2026. And so whilst the corporate tax cut rate will remain, the personal income tax cuts won't. And so after 2026, there is no tax cut at all for the middle class, although there remains a tax cut for the very wealthy. I don't think there'll be a huge amount of shifting of votes in the middle class. Maybe some switching towards Democrat, especially among middle-class women. We may see some voters who are reluctant to vote for Trump but will be loyal to a local Republican. And we don't yet know how the tax cut, the trade issue, or the Kavanaugh confirmation is going to play out in the middle class. So I think we should be looking for modest changes. It's important to note that of those who voted for Donald Trump, 63% say they still feel very warm towards the president, which was the same level as at the time of the election. And among Republicans, 9 in 10, or almost 9 in 10, say that Donald Trump is a president who stands up for what he believes in, and critically for political scientists, that he's a president who keeps his promises. And so among those in the middle class who voted for Donald Trump, there is no sign yet that many of them are turning away from him or from the Republican Party. And so I think that means we should be very cautious in predicting any massive swings in the votes of the American middle class.